Hi everybody, my name is Sarah Beth, and today I just finished reading The Reader by Bernhard Schlink. Please forgive me for the mispronunciation. It's about 200 pages, and it was published in 1995. As you can see from the cover, it was adapted into an Oscar-winning film in 2008 with Kate Winslet and Ralph Fiennes. So this is an interesting read. It definitely has some trigger warnings, especially if you know of the Holocaust and if you are Jewish and so forth. And it is maybe a little bit on the violent or sexual side as well, but doesn't delve too deep into those things. It's mostly about the philosophical discussions that come about from post-World War II Germany. I think that it is a really interesting take on the whole Holocaust genre, because most of the times you hear about the events that occurred in the concentration camps, or you see, the survivors, or even some works from the guards of what occurred, but not really that aftermath era of when not everybody was persecuted yet and Germany was still trying to rebuild from the war, and people that were part of this, monstrosity had to basically do away with their guilt or, shove it deep down and try to raise the next generation of Germans. And so this occurs, it begins in the 1960s with the main character being an offspring from this era. And he meets this woman, Franz Schmidt, who was a guard in a concentration camp. Of course, he doesn't know this, and he's 15 years old, and he sparks up this relationship with her. And I believe that it really plays on these different ideals of what it means to love somebody even though you know they're a monster, or how your first love can affect you, and how being with someone and accepting them for what they are but not delving deep into who they are, and how knowing this and knowing that you could have known more, that you could have done more, would you have judged that person differently? Did it really matter? Was that person, this monster that appeared in court, was that the same as the person that you knew and loved? And then it also brings up, of course, she was a pedophile because she was in her mid to late 30s, and this main character, the narrator, was a child when they began sleeping together and had this very intimate relationship. And you could definitely see that throughout his whole life, the narrator loved her, and he really wasn't able to capture the same love for anyone else. So it also begs the question of how important is that first love, and how does it paint you in a way? Because he was always comparing all the other women in his life to her, to Hannah, knowing that he never really wanted to be with Hannah again. He knew that she was very reserved. She was cut off, and she would never love him the way that he needed to be loved. But yet, she was this strong female woman that taught him what it was to be a man, and what it was to basically take on that responsibility and go forth into realms of knowing yourself and knowing your partner. I think that the actual, literary merit in this comes definitely within the ideals and the philosophy. I don't think the writing is all that great. There were definitely some points, very small points, but there was definitely these small sections that felt like I had to reread them over and over again, because I knew that in my head that I've kind of skimmed over them because it was a little bit too flowery or a little bit too around the bend writing, in a sense that it didn't feel like it was portraying a new idea, and it didn't feel like it was even elaborating on an idea further, but more of just repeating it in a slightly variated sense. And I didn't enjoy that the most, but I still think that most of the book didn't succumb to this. I also think that it's actually really interesting hearing the numbness that was brought over by the nation, and how that's explained in the text, and how even the survivors felt this, and those that are in this trial that is convicting all these women guards during the concentration camp era. For essentially, there was this situation in which a church was burning down, and this is when the Nazis were fleeing with their prisoners, the concentration camp women. And so a bomb came down on this church. It was lit on fire, and the women were essentially trapped in this church. And there's a huge motif of the guards could have unlocked the door. but they felt unsafe. They didn't know how to cope with this whole group of women that were, essentially burning to death. But everyone had left them alone to deal with these women. And what is, a few female guards going to do when they're left in charge with, a situation where they're outnumbered maybe 10 to 1. And so at the same time, that the women being imprisoned was completely wrong. And you see that there's this sense of lack of authority that they were subjected to. And once they were not told what to do by the, Nazi party, they were just at a loss, and they just kind of let things happen as opposed to acting in a correct or incorrect manner. I guess you would say that not doing anything is incorrect, obviously, but it definitely gives some humanity to these monstrous characters, because when all is said and done, the people that committed these atrocities were human, and it was quite a lot of people. And that after a while, everyone kind of humanizes their job. Instead of thinking of these prisoners and those in the concentration camps as people, they became it. They became people to be, not people, but things to be dealt with, as opposed to human beings that deserved a lot better. So I would actually say I think the book is better than the movie, which isn't a huge shocker, but I don't think that it's the greatest piece of literature. But I think if you are interested in hearing a different side of the Holocaust, I highly recommend it. I hope you have a good day, and thanks for watching.